It's a Sugar Bowl like no other, with Ohio State taking on Alabama in a college football Final Four game to reach the national championship game on January 12th. We bring in Ben George of Tide 99.1 to help us break down the Tide and the Buckeyes. Ben, how are you?
Good, Mark. Happy holidays to you. I know this is the matchup that we talked about probably a number of times back up in Connecticut. So I know this is the situation we were hoping it happened under, like a home and home, personally. But it should be a pretty fun one.
Yeah, it should be a whole lot of fun, and obviously the stakes couldn't be much higher. Alabama's a substantial favorite in this one. Before we dive into the matchup, do we have any sort of update on T.J. Yeldon's status?
Yeah, as of Wednesday morning, he's basically a game time decision. That was the update we had here New Year's Eve. Is that it's going to be, they're going to evaluate him on the field before the game to decide if he's going to go. I would imagine he goes. I think he'll play in a limited role. He's still been battling the ankle and hamstring issues. And Saban said he's gotten better all week in New Orleans as they've practiced and prepared for the Sugar Bowl. But I don't think he'll get a ton of carries. He'll see some, I bet, but he's still a game-time decision officially.
So the storylines to me seem to be 1 and 1A, quarterback situation for Ohio State, and also the clash between college football coaching giants Urban Meyer, Nick Saban. So let's start with the coaching matchup. It's a little bit more intriguing at this point, I think, with Saban and Meyer. Has there been anything said that's jumped out to you other than the typical respectful comments about the coaching status and intelligence and pedigree of each counterpart here?
Not really. I mean, I think everything's been about what we'd expect this week from these two. They've been in this situation before, playing each other on this stage. Maybe not quite as big, but that SEC championship those two played in back-to-back years was a de facto national championship each of those times they faced off. So they've been in this stage. They know what each other's all about. They have a coaching history between the two. They go back quite a number of years, way before they met up, Alabama and Florida. So they both have respect for each other. I'm looking forward to it. I think this is one of the bigger storylines because whether or not, depending on which side, who you ask, as far as when Urban Meyer left Florida, most people think it was at least a lot of Alabama fans think it had to do with Nick Saban and the way he kind of turned that dynasty around, pushed him to the side and moved Alabama up to the forefront and kind of made him take a break from coaching before he settled into the Big Ten. So I think we've been anticipating this matchup, kind of hoping for it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't heard anything out of the ordinary. I don't know if you have or if anything's caught your ear, but it's been pretty standard coach speak this week.
Yeah, nothing's caught my ear. I think when the fans talk, they assume or they want to believe that these guys don't like each other. So that's always on the surface that there's some kind of big rivalry. Obviously, there was between the two teams for that isolated period of time. And the torch was passed to a certain extent in the SEC between Florida and Alabama winning that second SEC championship game, and then the championships that have ensued since then, and then Urban Meyer leaving. So, yeah, I see a lot of poster board material, but it's all from the fan bases of just assuming that these guys don't like each other. But I don't see any history outside of those two games. Their paths didn't really cross before that. Nick Saban told an interesting story the other day about his wife taking a phone call from Urban Meyer way back when, and there being some type of conversation there, but then them not crossing paths for a long time after that. So from a coaching standpoint, we would be talking about Nick Saban having a huge advantage over any other coach practically in the country and having that month to prepare. We'd be saying similar things about Urban Meyer. So I think the intrigue is who outcoaches whom in this matchup.
Well, I give the nod to Nick Saban. I think strictly just on the big stage, he performs as well as anybody we've ever seen. It would be when he has a championship on the line. He seems to have his guys ready to go. And look, he seems to like this team a whole lot. Maybe even more than any team he's coached yet, and seems pretty confident with the way that they practice this week. But I just think on the biggest stage, he's the guy you want, no matter what. And I think Urban's right there with him. But I would give the nod to Nick Saban in this matchup. And I think with the matchups we'll have with Cardale Jones, being inexperienced, I think he'll be bright-eyed on this stage a little bit, and they're going to give him some fits, I would have to guess. So I give Nick Saban the nod. As good a big game coach as anybody else. He's proven that. His track record shows that. But Nick Saban, I think, on this stage, I think he's the guy you want.
Yeah, we would have assumed that Braxton Miller would have been the quarterback for Ohio State playing in a playoff game. We would have assumed that 4 or 5 months ago. Then it's J.T. Barrett steps in, sets a Big Ten record for touchdowns, just plays. I think he was better than Braxton Miller. I don't think he has the physical tools. The arm's not quite as strong. He's not quite as fast in a straight race. But, man, just the feel for the game and running the offense, he anticipated it well. He threw in tight windows. He was great. And then they have to go to Cardale Jones because the injury against Michigan. And then Jones, he played about as well as he could against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. The concern that I have is he's on a bigger stage, and we can assume that not everything's going to go his way from the first snap of the game, and that's pretty much how it played out. He never played at a deficit. He never played behind the sticks. It was pretty much just constant bam. First drive touchdown, second drive touchdown, and off we go. And the defense helped him out as well, and he never had to face either game situation adversity or adversity from the standpoint of, wow, they're showing me things I can't figure out, or the pass rush is getting to me.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point, Mark. I think you made the best point you could, is that look to come out on that stage in a Big Ten championship, that's a big game. So he's been on a big stage. But you're right. I mean, outside of that first few minutes, I mean, he was playing with house money. I mean, he was having a good time. He was relaxed, and that game was never in doubt after the first quarter. So he hasn't been in that situation yet where, like you said, if Alabama comes out, and I would expect them probably to take the ball and try to get a lead on Ohio State, and put the pressure on Cardale Jones and put the pressure on that offense to respond. I mean, that's what I would anticipate, because we don't know how he's going to react in that situation. And Alabama can start fast. We've seen them start fast most of the year, and if they can do that again, I think that's their ideal scenario. Now, if Ohio State does a good job and lets Cardale Jones get comfortable and move the offense a little bit, I think it'll be better. But yeah, until he sees this biggest stage against a team that look, this game, if Ohio State wins, it's going to be in a shootout. It's going to be a nail biter. He's going to have to make a play to win. So I want to see how he responds to that kind of pressure.
He's got a gun. There's no question about that. He's got a stronger arm than Barrett. I don't think that. I don't know that there's 5 or 6 throws in a typical football game that comes into play. Most of the time, I'll take the accurate guy that can read the defense and make the right decision. But we'll see if he's that guy and if he's up to it. But there was one play in particular against Wisconsin where he threw a touchdown pass to Devin Smith. It was like a 50-yard rope, and he had a guy like in his side while he was delivering the ball. He can really throw it, but again, it's got to be in the right spots to the right guy at the right point in the sequence of the play. The other is, if we're going to go to another matchup issue for Ohio State, it would be against Amari Cooper. This defense tying the 2013 performance to 2014. Every time they faced a capable quarterback, capable wide receivers, I'm not going to say elite, but very good, whether that was Michigan State, whether that was Clemson, of course, with Martavis Bryant and most notably Sammy Watkins, they got shredded. This year they started to get shredded in those kind of situations early. They seem to have shored it up. I find that interesting because they lost 2 first-round NFL players in Ryan Shazier and Bradley Roby at corner, and they're better right now than they were at that point. Again, the test is going to be greater than it's ever been against Cooper, and we can't forget Christian Jones, DeAndre White, and company.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of them because we talked about T.J. Yeldon and his uncertainty. Alabama has got a number of running backs in the stable. Besides Derrick Henry, they'll probably go with Tyron Jones quite a bit. But I think there's no question that Alabama wants to get the ball into Cooper's hands and wants to move the pace a little bit quicker. And we saw a little bit of this against Missouri. We saw Christian Jones start to come back to life a little bit. He's had a decent year, but compared to where he was last year, he's dropped off. But we saw him start kind of getting that explosiveness, that confidence back on the field last week. And then DeAndre White, I say last week, last game, and then DeAndre White, you add him in the mix, who's a home run threat. He's a speedy guy. He gets down the field pretty well. They're going to be a test for Ohio State, and I think Lane Kiffin's going to go after him. And on this turf, in a dome, good. It's good. It's a good environment to play up tempo a little bit. It's going to be a test for Ohio State. I think Lane Kiffin's going to go after him quite a bit in this ball game, but can they stop him? And it's been hard to stop Amari Cooper all season. I'd be surprised if they're able to really limit him. But you really just got to keep him in front of you, essentially, and tackle him, because he's really good after the catch. He makes guys miss a lot, but if you can contain him, you can consider that a victory, I would imagine.
And it's not been a dominant Ohio State defense, as I allude to, even against the likes of Indiana at times. So it's been hit or miss. They played their best game against Wisconsin in the championship game. We know Wisconsin's strengths. We know their limitations. It's pretty obvious. Alabama's got that covered with Blake Sims pulling the trigger and guys like, again, Amari Cooper, DeAndre White, and company. The one matchup that gets brought up as being Ohio State's chance is to hit the secondary deep, use the speed of Devin Smith, and some of the other wide receivers, Jalen Marshall, and also Michael Thomas, to get deep on the secondary that's been vulnerable at times.
Yeah, I mean that's still the name of the game, and it's been a weird year, Mark, because they've done really well in games and they shut down A&M, but then a game like Auburn, in which they just got destroyed in the secondary. It's going to take a really almost a near perfect effort for Cardale Jones. You mentioned he's got the arm strength, so they're going to attack that, but he's got to be accurate. I mean, I think that's been the big thing. If you can throw the ball on the money, there's going to be some chances there to make big plays for Ohio State. Can he do it? Can he do it with the pressure on him? With the man in his face on the big stage? That's really what it comes down to. But that's where you got to exploit Alabama. We saw even Matty Mock make some big plays downfield, just scrambling and almost just chunking it up, and they were still able to make some big completions there. There's yardage to be had, but you still have to make those plays. Those big plays are tough to complete, but there'll be opportunities for Ohio State, no question.
Yeah, Devin Smith's been a wide receiver for the Buckeyes for 4 years, pretty much from day one, who was going to catch like 30 balls a season. He's not a guy that's going to catch 8 or 10 passes a game, but he usually catches like 3, if that, a game, and one's a touchdown, and one's a long bomb. He catches a lot of big play receptions. I have always seen him as a hit or miss guy. Urban Meyer got onto the scene, really challenged him, said, you should be better than this. And the stats really haven't improved. He's gotten better. He makes the catches where at one point he wasn't out fighting defenders. And I heard an NFL scout say just the other day that they think he's going to be a very good NFL receiver. I think where Bama's got a luxury is in terms of the play calling. They can take their shots. They could line up Derrick Henry. That passing game's probably going to open up things for him. And I don't know that Ohio State. Well, obviously Melvin Gordon and Tevin Coleman at Indiana are top flight running backs. They've declared early for the draft, or Coleman has. So they've faced top flight backs. I don't know if they've seen the sheer power of a Derrick Henry. So if things are opened up in the passing game, and then they're finding gaps for Henry, it could get ugly. The point I was going to make for Ohio State, I think I'll get to it here at some point, but just Derrick Henry could have a huge game in this one against the Buckeyes as well. I could see that playing out.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance. For him, they got to give him space to run. He's better when he has a few yards to run downhill to really go after the defense. If he's run up the middle and there's not much yardage, he doesn't get going that well. So if they can get him out on the outside or give him some holes to start running downhill, if he gets in that second level, he's very dangerous. And especially late in the game, if they're able to get some carries out of Yeldon, keep Henry fresh, and then mix in Tyron Jones, who's got a little more speed and quickness. Henry could have a pretty big day. He had a great day on the stage a year ago against Oklahoma. I mean, this was his coming out party, and what many people put him on the list for dark horse for the Heisman just based on that one performance against Oklahoma. So, I think he'll do well. But Mark, I think a lot of it comes down to who gets off the field on third downs. Both these teams are great on third down and on offense. They both convert right around 50%, a little over actually, I think, for both teams. Both in the top maybe 7 in third down conversion percentage in the country. Whoever can get off the field and get their offense back on the defense, I'm saying, then I think that's going to be a big key to this game. Stopping drives, don't let those drives roll on 7, 8, 10 plays.
Yeah, just the one point I was going to make. I finally got to it was the play calling. I just think Alabama's got a lot less to lose in the play calling. They can be a little bit freer. They can go a couple different routes. Where Ohio State, it's just going to be crucial that they pull the right triggers at the right time in terms of taking their shots, because otherwise you get behind the sticks. If you took your shot on 1st and 10, then you're at 2nd and 10. You got some issues. On a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, do they play a conservative and most likely get the first down, or do they take a shot because that may pay off for the long haul rather than just converting a 3rd down at their own 35? Then they have to give it up 3 plays later and punt, as opposed to they know they need to make big plays in this game rather than playing the conservative route. They have one running back that they rely on, where Bama, if Yeldon's capable of playing, and I know that they may get some other backs into the mix, they seem to be a little bit more versatile, where Ezekiel Elliott had a great season for Ohio State, but Urban Meyer seems to like to lean on one running back, because Carlos Hyde was the only guy you saw last year, and Elliott's been that guy this year. They've got a guy, a freshman, Curtis Samuels, who's a really good back in the making, but hasn't seen it in crucial situations. So it's going to be Ezekiel Elliott or bust at running back for Ohio State as well. And again, I think play calling is crucial for the Buckeyes to take the chances at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think you're exactly right. That's the benefit that Lane Kiffin's had, and that's why Lane Kiffin's been so positive when we've heard him finally in these media sessions. That he just loves his weapons. He's kind of free to do what he wants, and he's got a ton of people to rely on. And that's been the way against Alabama, is you have to execute. Actually, it comes down to execution, and when they make those play calls, they need to make them work. They need to execute. I think Ohio State, look, they got a great offense. They might have the most balanced offense in the country. Even if you want to say they've been going up against some teams that aren't very good in the Big Ten, they played some good competition, and they played really well. And you cannot brush off a 59-0 win. I don't care who it's against on that stage. So I think Ohio State, I think they're going to move the ball. I really do. I think they're going to put some points on the board. It's just a matter of whether or not they can slow down Alabama enough. And I think they have a good defense, but Alabama's offense has just been electric this season, and there's just so many weapons. And besides Yeldon, they're about as healthy as they have been, and especially Amari Cooper, who's been playing a little banged up those last couple of games coming down the stretch and still put up amazing numbers. So, it'll come down to that. I'm looking forward to the offense of both these games. It's weird because we were talking defenses with these two teams, just a few years back, minus Tebow, but it was these two defenses for Florida and Alabama when they matched up in 2009. They were so good, and now we're talking about these two offenses that'll probably lead the way. Yeah,
the other downside for Ohio State is I just think if you look at their roster, I think they're a year away. Not that they couldn't win this game, pull it off, and I think the winner of this game, obviously if it's Alabama, but even Ohio State I think has a better chance against Oregon or Florida State than they do against Alabama. I think the roster is very young. Besides Devin Smith as a senior wide receiver, the rest of those guys running around are freshmen and sophomore. They rely heavily on Jalen Marshall. He's a freshman. Ezekiel Elliott, we mentioned, as a sophomore. The offensive line was completely replaced from last season, and most of those guys went to the NFL. So a lot of sophomores along the offensive front. Joey Bosa is their best defensive player. He's just a sophomore. A lot of guys in the secondary, freshman and sophomore. That's pretty much the secondary. They've got one corner in Durant Grant, who's a senior. One key linebacker is a senior as well. Their best linebacker is a freshman as well. They're extremely young. to be playing in this kind of game. But kind of ironic that yeah, this is the first environment that they'll face, kind of like to this capacity. The Big Ten championship not in play, but amped up beyond that. But they played their better football on the road against good teams like Michigan State. So and Penn State, despite Penn State not being that good, the environment they performed pretty well there. So we shall see. Ben, you got a feel for this one?
I think I put down on our website, tide991.com. I think I put down 31-21 is my official prediction in this game. I think it'll be close for a good while. I think Alabama just has a little too much for Ohio State, but there's no question Ohio State is doing the right things. I mean, they have the young talent, like you said. They have a great foundation, and they're winning a lot of games. And you keep putting yourself on the stage, they'll be back in that championship game. If it's not this year, in the next year or two, I think. Even with your boy Harbaugh moving in next door, I think they have a good chance to continue to lead the Big Ten. I think it's gonna be close, but I think Alabama's got just a little too much offensively and a little away.
Very good, Ben. Appreciate the time and the insight into Bama all season. It's always a good discussion, man.
You got it, Mark, and enjoy it all year, and looking forward to hopefully talking one more time.